I'm your host, Peter Hissey. Excited to have James Pachucki, the president of M5.
Nah, thanks for having me.
You've touched a lot of different parts of the business realm, right? From operations to sourcing to finance. Would love to hear your origin story. How did you get started, and kind of walk me through to where you are today?
Yeah, so background, grew up with two blue collar parents. First in a family to go to college, went to Lehigh, found my brain works best with engineering, so did industrial engineering there. First job during college was Crayola as a continuous improvement engineer. Was fortunate enough to get first job out of college with Illinois Toolworks, amazing company. You'll hear that through my different podcasts. Started out in strategic sourcing, did materials management, operations, then went back to strategic sourcing on a global basis, moved to Chicago, did customer facing, customer care. So really just a plethora of different, jobs, always kind of, stretched my mind, did jobs that, I didn't necessarily, want to do per se, but ended up doing to really just learn. And then in 2020, the owner of my company called me up. He's like, hey, if I buy this company, will you run it? It was a little packaging book, kind of like Uline. And I was like, you know what? I got the entrepreneur in me. Let's go. The world shut down a week later and then kind of just figured it out. So, I always like to joke, I'm an engineer that sells boxes. And that's where we're kind of shifting, my personal mindset into like technology and stuff like that, which we'll touch on then. But yeah, just always trying different, different jobs.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so for a while, you're working for big corporate companies like Crayola or the ones you mentioned, and all of a sudden you got a call and you went for it. So was there something that happened in your path that were you an entrepreneur? Were you always entrepreneurial, but at a bigger place, solving problems that couldn't be solved, and this was a gateway? Or did that mindset develop over time, and then just you took the call and took the risk?
I think within ITW, they have a very decentralized structure where they encourage entrepreneurship and you're almost shielded where, you can innovate within a company, but, staying within their path. I think that business model really allowed me to kind of run the company because I could, take calculated risks, learn from great leaders, implement that at a smaller scale, and then have ITW's backing on support, and things like that. So really just kind of set that framework for the 8 years I was there. And now I'm fortunate where, I built up the solid base and we're starting to kind of deviate, do some R&D and innovation within scale, right? Because a small business, if we do something that doesn't really work, it could potentially lead to out of business.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really just bringing 15 years of experience and trial and things, put it together. So that's where we stand now.
Yeah. So now talk to me about M5 Supply. You have this, differentiated niche. How have you had a great skill set coming in? The world shuts down in March of 2020. Talk to me about M5 Supply from maybe March of 2020 to where it is today.
It was wild. So I took over the company a week later. The world shut down, and I realized, hey, I got to make this company run. Our driver had quit, so I got my DOT medical card. Was honestly driving the truck, running the company, learning all about small business. Putting the hours every day, and it was definitely a lot and rewarding. But I think being able to like drive the truck, be out there on the floor with the warehouse guys, really gave me that ground up approach that we differentiate on, right? So you're looking at me now, actually kind of dressed up for today. I'm usually in a shirt out there with the guys, doing that. So yeah, I think that comes from the blue collar background. My dad was an electrician, mom worked at the post office. My dad's wife, she's an entrepreneur. So just learning from others, and my owner, he was great at Illinois Toolworks and other companies, and always just pushed me to be the best that I could and take those kind of calculated risks.
Yeah. So when you first joined, how many employees were there? What did the business look like? And then what does it look like today?
Yeah, so we inherited. It was honestly just like three and a half of us. So it was a
Okay.
warehouse manager and a controller who came in with the owner of the previous company, and now we've scaled up. We scaled up to about seven, and then kind of did a reset. Right, we grew quick. You see behind me,
Yeah.
fastest growing packaging company in America. I was kind of just handing out, jobs because we were growing. It was going to go forever, and then reality hit. Right. So we did a restructure. Now we actually have, I say four and a half, five employees, where
Mhm.
we really just focus on, our 8 to 10 core customers and
Yeah.
just give them our all. So yeah, it's slow and steady growth because when I tripled the company revenue, it just wasn't worth it. Every $1 million you raise, it just brings on more problems, more
Yes.
customers, things like that. But yeah, now it's about a journey, and looking back, that's why ITW is such a great company, right? Slow and controlled growth.
Yes.
So that's where we shifted the focus.
Yeah. So that decision to leave a very secure job, to effectively a very small business where you're driving the truck. Who are some of the people in your life that helped you make that decision? Maybe some advice you got or mentors you leaned on during that time?
Yeah, the biggest one. So my dad, he worked at corporate, not corporate. He's an electrician his whole life. Wanted me to stay in the 401. I was rising up through ITW, and that was one perspective. But my owner, he was my boss for 5 8 years. He kind of said like it's now or never, and then talked to my dad's wife, who ran a printing company. And I was like, if I don't do this now, I'm going to regret it the rest of my life. And he always just kind of sold me, have his back in, and just like, hey, now or never. And it was just a rare life opportunity that I capitalized on. And I think now looking back, it's like that combination of corporate, small business, entrepreneurship. It just blends really well. We got some, new initiatives coming out with technology and stuff like that. So it's being able to create your own path. At corporate, by one person, I was told I was too ambitious. So that kind of set me off where I was like, hey, let me show you.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, ITW, I can't talk highly enough about them.
Oh, that's great. So, were the mentors in your life when you made that decision also supporting you on this next phase of growth, some of that reorganization you talked about? Who do you lean on now for support, guidance, counsel?
Obviously, my owner, and then honestly, being in the Philadelphia 100 on the board there, my BCA crew members, I almost feel like a kid again. I'm like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of this, and they've been through the journey, right? And I was kind of naive early on. I was like, oh no, it's going to work for me, and they're like, hey, this is going to happen. And 3 months later, it did happen. So honestly, all the Philadelphia execs, I can't talk highly enough about the city, just how they're focused on uplifting others, and that's really helped me, get back into like nonprofits, help others working with Temple now, helping young entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So it's really just a sounding board and taking calculated risk.
Yeah. So what have been some of the things you've learned since taking on the president's role? I mean, maybe not the blocking and tackling of what you do because you came in with a real skill set, but what's one of the things maybe that surprised you about what you've learned the last 3 or 4 years?
I would say in small business, if you're not going to do it, no one is really. So you gotta, you gotta button up and do it. And yeah, things need to get done daily. Really just allocating like strategic time on like, hey, what am I gonna do for strategy? What's the daily operation stuff? What has to get done? Fortunately, a young team now. I've been training them. They're all 23 and younger. I've been allocating items to them, but they're also managing up and helping me understand, like, dude, it's not that important, like the customer knows you, they're good, that can wait till tomorrow. In my mind, I'm like, needs to go now.
Yeah.
So really just, training the next level of teams, seeing how the market is, listening to other entrepreneurs. I think I do a lot better job now of, 2 years, one knows, one ITW exec said that, just listening.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. You mentioned technology a few times with M5. You're leaning into that. Maybe share something, share about what you're doing with technology. You talked about the younger workforce as well. A little closer, ear to the ground on what's happening. You also are a younger, president of a company. Talk to us about technology at M5.
Yeah, I think AI, it was the buzzword in October, and I was like, you know what, let me get ahead of this. And I think I'm very fortunate at Illinois Toolworks, I was very technology driven, worked with IT department, quite a bit, on dashboards, consolidating. I had, fostered like Power BI before it was a thing. So
Yeah.
really having that mindset, because essentially I wanted to work myself out of an analyst job by kind of making the tools so I could focus on more items. So the last 3 months, I mean, I've been probably 80% on AI and just developing tools and stuff that we actually want to give to our M5 supply customers. Because AI is the buzzword, and we kind of
Yes.
fit in that small to medium business where I'm bringing Fortune 200, elite knowledge, giving it to our small and medium business, and especially the customers that have been with us for these 5 6 years, right? I haven't been perfect, but they let us kind of trial stuff at their site, like, hey, will this work for you? So we got some exciting stuff coming out of M5 Solutions soon, which is like a subdivision that I kind of
Mhm.
created where the guys are going to handle the material portion, and then I'm going to focus on the IT AI integration. And I think I've been fortunate, 15 years of curiosity and kind of a business intelligence allowed me to kind of gain a lot of traction on that step. So look for something in the next couple of months.
Yeah, that's great. And I think about AI, and I want to get your take or your advice to a lot of entrepreneurs or executives who say, "Hey, AI is for the younger generation." I feel like I'm the same as you, have really leaned into it because I'm not too old to learn and dig in and really master something. But do you feel like the entrepreneur who's in his, in or her 50s or 60s, is there benefit in digging in, or is it just something for the younger generation?
I think with them, they bring a lot of experience and wisdom where if you taught the AI the right way, it can craft and actually supplement your job. I know that's the big kind of, worry out there. AI is going to take your job, but honestly, I think it's just going to supplement. What I found is it computes probably thousands times faster than the human brain. So it's really just, organizing. That's very important. Systems, having them in the right place, where to pull
Yes.
from. It can supplement everyone's lives. I mean, I think it's going to be a great addition to, the world. Always that little concern and stuff, but I personally see it as just, let the computer do the cognitive work because it really
Yes.
takes away 90% of my cognitive work, allows me to be focused on creativity. And some of the stuff I've been seeing is fascinating.
Yeah. So, asking about leadership now that you're in a president's role, what are some of the tough, a tough situation, how you managed it as you think about being a leader of a small business? It's different than, managing a group of people in a corporation, right? You put them on a, performance improvement plan, and then there's bosses on bosses on bosses. Here you're dealing with issues and having to handle them. Could you share maybe either a specific or a leadership lesson learned over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I would say when things were getting a little tough with my previous staff, just learning that like, hey, I need to do this to A, save the company, B, hire within. Because some of the guys were getting, sealant on, hey, this guy wants to advance, but this guy's holding them back. We're pretty simple, right? I don't like the word boss, right? I never really did it. ITW is more like, hey, I'm a colleague.
Yes.
Then leaders, obviously, right? I take bullets every day, right? I love that. That's fine. I protect the guys. But I really never had like a whole big team and stuff like that. I've been more the visionary, kind of helping people out. So we don't like to use the word boss, things like that. It's more solutionist, which we call ourselves because we're multi disciplinary. So last week, I promoted my internal guy. He's like a young protege of me, which is amazing. So we
Yeah.
made him senior solutionist, and then we have the operations guys. Just want to continue mentoring them, and then leadership really about the business with respect to the councils and stuff like that. And honestly, just uplifting others, right? My owner, he always made sure, I was, the focus of things. He promoted within for me. And that just, it continues to go down. Another good business reference, I was fortunate to meet David Kohler, and you kind of see his culture, and we mirror that, where, he plays in his own lane, he uplifts everyone. No matter where you go, you're going to see a Kohler associate represent the same culture anywhere in the world.
No, I love that. And I think the older generation or different generation was protecting the work you do and creating a moat around it so that no one else can do it. So you're necessary for the business. And now I think the mentality is, no, I want you to do what I do so that I can do other things and be more creative. I don't want to have ownership over every task. I want to empower you to do everything I'm doing. And then in meetings, I mean, the same way I love when, the boss mentality versus the colleague mentality. I think it's really important.
Yeah, especially like, hey, this isn't, rocket science, but I want you to do that better. And then,
Yes.
honestly, giving people or empowering people, they get fresh perspective, right? None of our guys have college degrees, all were high
Mhm.
school and stuff, but they have that grit, they're curious, and they want to learn.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's been fantastic. And that's where we did differentiate from other competitors, I guess. It's, hey, he's the VP, he's the director, he's this, you have to listen. Never followed that. I refuse to. Really just helping others.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to ask you for two pieces of advice. The first for people at larger businesses where you were. What advice would you give them if they have the entrepreneurial spirit? And the second would be, what advice would you give to business owners as they are, preparing and leaning into maybe technology or their team? Kind of those two different pieces of advice from where you sit.
Yeah, so at the corporate world, ITW really emphasized, right, be 80% of your great job and be 20% curious. I can only speak to really them, right? I had friends in other companies. I really didn't, mirror that stuff. But go learn about different businesses, go sit on meetings about marketing, sit in about sales, right? Just because your operations doesn't mean you can't have fresh input to that. Sometimes I really love it, right? And again, ITW, the execs all the way to the top, they were eating lunch with the guys. They were walking in the hallway. I mean, you could message them. It was just fantastic. So, again, I can't speak to other companies, but I think ITW was just an amazing company there. Now, in relation to business leaders doing into AI, I think it's really up to the business strategy, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't be afraid of it. Like, leverage it. Let the young guys manage up, like I said, and say, hey, this is what's working. This is how we consolidate. This is where we can drive savings, things like that. So, Yeah, just, take chances and risk, calculated risks within reason, right? You don't want to go say, hey, I'm going to bring in 5 million of inventory in case it sells, right? That's a
Yeah.
no-no. But it's like, hey, I want to try this tool, but here's our process now in Excel. Maybe there's a better way, And the leaders who really like let those younger generations try stuff and like provide input, I think they're going to do really well.
Yeah. Your scenario of in ITW, the executives ate with you. So when I was at spring training, there's major league spring training and minor league spring training. And when I was there, it was very separate. Minor league guys do not talk to major league guys, do not eat together, different dining areas, different food options. And other organizations started leaning into, no, we've got one dining common. These are guys go back and forth all the time. I mean, there may be 70 players on a major league roster that get a World Series ring, and the active roster is 25. So there shouldn't be this line. And in those other organizations, when you have big leaguers sitting at every table, it normalizes that these guys they're not gods. They're regular people. They put their pants on just like you. But eating together is a big deal.
Yeah, and honestly, I was with Sandy Smith, the Philly publisher. Kind of had lunch with him, and I told him like 3 years ago, I was almost afraid to reach out to these CEOs and stuff like that, right? So switched my mindset, and then
Yeah.
just started approaching these CEOs, and they were more than welcome to help out and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that was, these guys are running mega companies, but they're normal people at the end of the day. I use LinkedIn heavily, right? Just add a connect, hey, I just want to follow and like learn from you and stuff like that. So I think that's really well. And I just got a notification I won 40 under 40. So let's go.
Nice. Congratulations.
Let's go.
Big
Thank you,
deal.
Sandy.
Live here. I'd love to hear that. So my last question is really about your long-term thinking, your legacy. What is success for you and for M5 Supply look like?
Yeah, I think it's more just innovating in a very commoditized space, right? A lot of
Okay.
other, I hate the word competitor, but technically competitors, they're always selling on like price, value, service, right? I'm better,
Yeah.
this and that. We're starting to differentiate. We got some intellectual property, provisional patents coming along that are really going to kind of shake up the market. And it's, I refer back to like David and Goliath, the book, right? We're small, we're powerful, which is great versus, some of the larger companies where they're not going to move as quick, not be as innovative, take those risks. So yeah, really just taking a risk and going with it and having fun.
Yeah, you're not lugged down by the armor, right? You've shed the armor, you've got your 5 stones in your sling, and you're ready to roll.
You know it well.
Yeah, great. Well, James, that's all we've got for today. Congratulations about 40 under 40. That's really exciting, and I'll look forward to continuing to watch you grow and follow M5 Supply.
Much appreciated. Anyone on LinkedIn, please add me if I can help you with anything, nonprofits, business, Philly 100. I'm here.